talking to you guys a little bit about performance-enhancing drugs and their effects on sports. So, how many of you have ever been drug tested for performance-enhancing drugs, or randomly drug tested or anything? Yeah. All right. So, I know, like most of you, I asked most of you about it. Also, I was drug tested last week, so that's fun. The NCAA requires athletes to submit to random drug testing, and a lot of states for their high school sports require it, including Illinois. So, as a freshman in high school, I had to sign a waiver that said anytime through my high school career, I would submit to random drug testing. Professional sports teams also drug test a lot, and a fun fact is the company that does the drug testing here also tests the Chicago Bears. So. All right, so who are some professional athletes that you know that have been accused of using performance? Okay, that's true. All right, so anyone else?
Sammy Sosa.
So first we'll look at cycling. Who knows who this is?
Armstrong.
That's Armstrong. So Lance Armstrong won 7 Tour de France titles in a row, and they were all stripped from him because he was caught using performance-enhancing drugs. You know, he came back from cancer and everything, and it was great, but then it was all performance-enhancing drugs. This guy's a little less known. His name is Alberto Contador. He won 3 Tour de France titles, and those were taken from him as well because he was found out to be using performance-enhancing drugs. Doping is huge in cycling. Almost everyone does it, and a lot of people feel like they have to do it because they can't keep up with their competition if they don't. And according to a 2012 article in the New York Times, between 1995 and 2012, only two Tour de France winners won the race without being accused of using drugs. In American football, this guy's name is Lyle Alzado. He was a defensive end in the NFL for several teams. He died at age 43 from brain cancer, and he blamed the brain cancer on performance-enhancing drugs. Also, Clay Matthews was accused of using performance-enhancing drugs in 2016. Track and field, this guy in the front who won, his name is Ben Johnson. He's a Canadian, and this is Carl Lewis. He is an American sprinter. They both competed at the 1988 Olympics in South Korea, and both of them were found out to be using performance-enhancing drugs. In baseball, we have Sammy Sosa, who's a famous one. As you can see, people knew. Barry Bonds. Ryan Braun recently was convicted of using them. And then Alex Rodriguez, very famous. All right. So now that we've talked about some athletes, we'll talk about some types of doping. So a very common one is anabolic steroids. You see a lot of weightlifters, bodybuilders using anabolic steroids. Human growth hormone is what these sprinters that I talked about used, and you can tell that they were using it because their teeth were growing. So if you see adults with braces in professional sports, they might be using human growth hormone. Blood boosters you see a lot in cycling, as well as diuretics. Blood boosters, you can increase the amount of oxygen that your red blood cells can, so you can go longer in endurance sports like cycling. Diuretics are useful to athletes who need to maintain a certain weight. Painkillers a lot of athletes use painkillers, but some use them excessively. And then sedatives and stimulants can be used if an athlete would like to reduce nerves before an event, or stimulants can be used if they need energy. All right, so how do these drugs affect sports? Anyone have any ideas about that?
They can lift more weight and get stronger and faster.
Exactly.
They can be better than other people.
For sure. Also, athletes may feel pressured to participate in illegal drug use to be able to compete with the top athletes that are getting better than them. And an athlete who chooses not to use performance-enhancing drugs will be at a constant disadvantage. So now that we know how drugs affect sports, what do you guys think would happen if the drugs were legalized, if it was okay to use them?
It would be unfair. It would be cheaper. It would be cheating.
It would be cheating, yeah, for sure. So Michael Berber wrote an article, and he thinks that 2 main things would happen. One, athletes would be forced to choose between either using the drugs or not using the drugs, obviously. But if they chose to not use the drugs, they'd be at a disadvantage. So they'd have to choose between using them and possibly becoming unhealthy, of it, or not being good enough to compete at the top level of their events. And obviously, what athlete doesn't want to be the best? So that would lead to athletes having to deal with the health repercussions. All right, so an article by Amy E. Caldwalder and Bob Murray confirms the obvious truth that people are always willing to cheat to become the best at their sport, which is an unfortunate truth. The lengths to which people are willing to go vary, but all drug use has a great impact on sports. PEDs are being used by younger and younger athletes, and soon they will be uncontrollable if not controlled now. You see it a lot of high school athletes now, which is really scary, because it used to be mostly just professional sports, and then it kind of seeped into college, and now it's seeping into high school, especially football players. They want to get bigger and stronger, and that's kind of scary because that will really affect them in the long run. So if you or someone you know is going to use PEDs, tell them the